Once upon a time, there was me, searching through Warframe builds cause I was bored, and I came to a conclusion that 95% of builds I see are trash. And why are they trash, you wonder? Well, because their energy economy sucks. And if your energy economy sucks, everything about your build will suck. So today we will go through every single, well, relevant way on how to get good energy economy, or dare I say, sustain. We will not go in any specific order, but I will give my opinions if they are good or not, and when you want to use which one. Also, we don't go into every single ability that gives energy, but only the ones accessible regardless of which frame you are playing. And now, a word from our sponsor, Daddy. Starting off with high efficiency. This is one of the best ways to keep energy usage under control. It's mostly used for frames that spam a lot and nuke frames, and by high efficiency I mean either 160 or 175. To get to 175 correctly, you want to use Streamline and Fleeting Expertise to one rank below max. This effectively frees up 2 mod capacity and gives you 10% duration. Accessible pretty much from the get-go. The moment you install Warframe, it is really a good choice. Only downside is shield gating without catalyzing shields. Next on the list we have Flow, which is trash. Okay, I'm kidding, it's not actually trash, but if you have primed flow on every single build, just know that your builds are trash. Most frames are good enough with putting 1 to 2 blue shards for energy max, especially on frames that have low base energy. Putting flow gives you like nothing, while shards give a set amount always, and before you start coping and saying, but I need my slots for something else. Look, imagine 2 yellow cast speed, 2 blue energy, and 1 tau corrosive max stacks. Just stop putting only red strength shards unless you're playing Wisp or something. If you're talking level cap, flow is very good because running out of energy means certain death, and it just gives that comfort, sure. In the end, flow is great, but very overused or used wrongly. Max energy Archon shards. Well, we briefly went over these in the previous section. They can definitely save up mod slots and take out flow from your build. Again, having millions of max energy is pretty useless, so use it in moderation. If you need more room in your builds, or your frame has bad energy max, feel free to use them. Equilibrium, probably one of the most used mods in all of Warframe, and for a good reason. With the amount of health orbs that drop nowadays, either from Warframe abilities or companions, you might as well change the description of this mod to gain infinite energy. It's very rare that you can go wrong with putting Equilibrium on your build, and if you do decide to go for some health tanking build, you will get a little bit of extra healing. That's it, Equilibrium, chef's kiss. Now mini equilibrium and orb efficiency shards. These are a bit underrated, but they are very good in scenarios where your sustain is just a little bit too weak. If you ever find yourself in a situation where your energy is draining very slowly, just 1 shard could turn that into positive gain and good sustain. So situationally can be very good. Then we have the school Zenurik. This is the school I suggest to all beginners, as it can make almost any build have good energy economy. If, of course, your frame doesn't have a lot of channeling, because during channeling your energy recovery doesn't work most of the time. Wellspring gives us one of the best regens in Warframe at 5 energy per second. Only real downside is that it locks you out of using Mother Eye, for example, in operator heavy modes, and to cast a free spell every once in a while can actually be pretty harmful in case of shield gating, where you cast your spell, don't get any shield, and your ass flops to the ground. If this happens to you often, you might be griefed by Zenurik. Overall, a great school, especially for beginners. And here we have yet another beginner mod, Energy Nexus. Same like the school, I suggest this mod to pretty much anyone starting Warframe. The price for value for this mod is absolutely insane. It's a mini Zenurik without downsides and 0 conditions. It just works. So anything that just works for you in a video game without using brain must be good. I suggest using it for chill frames with high ability duration. Octavia and friends. Arcane Energize is a lazy man's treasure. And what I mean by this, it just feels so cheap. Your energy economy sucks, you put Arcane Energize, and boom, your build now works. It's definitely one of the best arcanes in the game, and I'm glad that DE had made it a bit more accessible to the whole player base with the recent events, cause farming this arcane during Eidolons is just so incredibly miserable with the current drop rates, but since the Belly of the Beast and the Kavia event, Energized is even relatively cheap. 400 to 500 plat is still not cheap, but it's better than it used to be. I remember times when it was 2 to 3000 plat. Next on the list we have Nourish, and Nourish is king. Absolute menace to society of Helminth abilities. It not only gives you more energy, but also viral status and more damage, and it works on your teammates. Even with the nerfs, it stays arguably the best subzoom ability in the game. It allows for crazy combinations like viral corrosive heat, which on certain weapons melts level cap enemies instantly. Consider Nourish while using any weapon that's a good status applicator or any weapons that are tight on mod space. Rage and Hunter's Adrenaline. This is a very niche way of getting more energy, but it indeed does work on good health tanking frames like Neza, Valkyr or Wukong for example. Take damage to health and gain energy. As simple as that. Not my favorite way for sure, but definitely viable in the right circumstances. Le Bouc or Grimore. Almost a forgotten feature of Warframe. Maybe because DE just never released any more tome weapons, but I recently made a build for it and I was surprised how good it actually was. This mod gives us very high energy regen based on enemies hit by the alt fire. So just throw it into a bunch of enemies and you are golden. I suggest using it when your secondary weapon is not the key part of your damage, as a primer or when you want extra shield gating from Augur mods. Energy pads, also known as energy pizza. 100% a must-have for everyone. It does not only give you energy but also to your team. One energy pad can be a difference between you wiping or succeeding during elite Archimedia runs. And if you get the X100 blueprint from Dojo, it even becomes cheap to make. Don't sleep on this, it's just an amazing tool that you should be using at the start of missions on certain frames that have a hard time scaling up, or in really heavy situations where you are flooded by enemies. Companions. We will generally be looking at this bad boy here, Dethcube, as it's the best energy companion. We have Energy Generator, giving free energy directly, then we have Synth Deconstruct and Duplex Bond giving us health orbs, which can then be converted to energy, as you probably know unless you slept over the first half of the video. I have only recently started using Dethcube and it's by far the most brainless way of sustaining your builds. You can pretty much do whatever you want with your build, put on equilibrium and have a Dethcube and your sustain is good, but unfortunately there is a sizable downside. Since it's not a beast, you give up on the extra resources and credits because you can't run any retriever mod. Preparation. Absolutely a must-have for capture or exterminate builds. I use this mod mostly for fisher runs because that's where you find yourself running a lot of exterminates or captures. A very straightforward way of not having to worry at all about energy pickups. And while we are at this build, let's talk about Steadfast. You just get a couple free casts every once in a while. It's really a weird one. It works wonders in low levels when you don't have to count for survivability, but it breaks most shield gating builds, as if your ability is free, you get no shield. That's the biggest issue I have with this mod. And most health tanking builds don't scale that well either, so it's an arcane that doesn't really make it to high levels. So the conclusion is, it's really good when it's good, but it's very niche and situational. Dispensary and Protea Specters. Dispensary is an overall incredible tool where you get a lot of stuff, but it doesn't move with you. So in a stationary mission like defense, RB, etc., it's absolutely a must-have on at least one member. And Protea Specter. The extra drop chance will not be that high since Specters use a default setup, but it is Dispensary nonetheless, and you can have another subzoom on your frame. This is my preferred way of getting Dispensary via a Specter. If you're not into Specters, now it's your time to start. There is no excuses. 1-star Specters are so cheap and you can make 10 at a time. And lastly, we have some honorable mentions. For the things that are either an addition to your existing energy economy or the ones that situationally are very strong but rarely used. Using Forma to free up mod capacity. If you didn't know, the more free capacity you have, you start with more energy. So this can be used as a mini preparation, sorta. I found it useful on frames that have a hard time at the start or frames with low efficiency. Archon Stretch. If your frame does electric damage and you are running Stretch on it, might as well slot in Arcon Stretch. This will not make it or break it, but it is a nice little addition that comes at no cost. Well, it costs a bit more capacity, but that's about it. Companion electricity damage also procs this, so it can be used pretty much whenever. Spectrosiphon. This used to be a pretty nice way to make energy situationally on any frame that has a grouping tool, but it was greatly overshadowed by Nourish, which is in my opinion just a better version of this. If you don't have Nourish unlocked, it can still be a viable option. Primary Exhilirate. I see literally no one using this, but it really is not that bad. If you're using a primary as a primer, aka status applicator, it can be a great addition, as 3.6 energy per second is not negligible. Exodia Brave, again, I never see this being used, more so because people don't really use those apart from Profit Taker, but on those you actually have 2 arcane slots, so this one should definitely see a bit more play, considering it doesn't take influence off your build. The addition of Tenokai made it even better. Arcane Battery. It's good and bad for the same reasons as Prime Flow, but it is definitely worse because you need a condition for it to be good, that being high armor. I am not a big fan of health tanking, mostly because it sucks, except for a few frames that really can do it. And some of those frames don't even go for high armor, they go for damage reduction instead, so until DE decides to buff health tanking, this arcane will not be that great. Mystic Bond. If you are not using catalyzing shields, this can be a great option, but it suffers the same inconsistency that Zenurik or Arcane Steadfast do, where it can get you downed randomly without you even realizing what you did wrong. On the other hand, on shield regen builds or health tanking builds, it's great and I highly suggest using it, especially on an energy hungry frame. That's gonna finalize our energy guide. If there are some ways left unsaid on how to sustain energy, don't hesitate to let everyone know and write a comment down below. I hope this video will help you make not only reliable builds, but the ones that are comfortable and fun to play as well. If you want to see more content, like and subscribe are only 2 clicks away. I will catch you in the next one.